Hello, everyone. This is ALBERTA, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to this week in Uruguay. Bitcoin. Today is June the 29th. 2018, strong hand, offended by selling, long-term thinking, don't be impulsive, people. Deferral of gratification is something you really got to keep in mind these days, and I think it is lost on all these technical gurus out there. Anyway, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. Check out disruptmeister.com to see all my archives. Check out the links below to find out about all three of these awesome guests on the show today and see the archives, see yesterday's show, the last day's show when I was in Puerto Rico, then I was in Baltimore yesterday. Anyway, we're going to get started off. Andy Hoffman is in the house. We got Bgold Ed, and we've got Gabriel in Venezuela to tell us what is really going on in Venezuela, because there was an article going all over the place yesterday about Venezuela. And I was just like, let's get a real dude in there that's like actually in Venezuela. And yeah, I'm wearing a Uruguay shirt because I have a relatives there, and I know some of you all over the world are watching this. You're pumped up about the World Cup. I'll change to my Bitcoin shirt in the middle of the show because I always have to have a Bitcoin shirt on. But for now, we're starting out with Uruguay. So let's start with Andy Hoffman. He had a tweet out there today that I liked a lot. Now, I don't usually talk about numbers, but this $100 billion market cap for Bitcoin, there's probably something to it here, okay? So I'm going to read you a direct quote from Andy Hoffman, then Andy Hoffman's going to elaborate on it. Don't forget that $5,843, Bitcoin is exactly a $100 billion market cap. Very interested to see if it holds, which it should, given how vital Bitcoin is to the world's future and how it could be the best investment institutions ever make. I think it will be at this ridiculously undervalued level. Again, one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. Value your wealth in Bitcoin. But here, all you technical gurus out there are talking that language of fiat. So now Andy's going to speak your language. Take it away.
Right. Well, look, when we talk about institutions, and you can go back to September when I was talking about this, before Brian Kelly was even on your show talking about the institutional wall of money. I said that back when I was on Wall Street for a long time. I mean, it's very obvious that certain key numbers are where institutions of different sizes join. I wrote all fall about how once we get to, at the time, well, I wrote about $6,000. That's when you got to $100 billion market cap. Right now, there's a little more supply of Bitcoin than there was back in the fall, so the number is 5843. I said that when we get to 6,000, you're going to see a lot of money come in, and it did. You could see the tweets, you could see the articles. I also said that come January 1st, I said hedge funds typically start, they all start at the end of quarters. It's just the way the accounting is done. These are illiquid funds that are set up in certain time periods. They start at the end of quarters, and probably I would bet that 90% of them start at the beginning of the year. And I said, just you wait, if we're over $6,000, their money's going to come rushing in on January 1st. And guess what? That's when the old coin bubble started, on January 1st. Unfortunately, there was a lot of dumb money that came in and recklessly bought up everything in sight, because that's what hedge funds do. And again, you can't have a hedge fund in cryptocurrency that buys Bitcoin. That's not a hedge fund. You have to buy other things. So they just bought everything else, created this huge bubble, and inflated the Bitcoin to $330 billion, and the whole sector to, I don't know what it was, $800 billion. Yeah, I know I lost my camera. And at the same time, it created the futures were able to start because the price got that high. And a lot of institutions did start to dip their toes into the water, at least to start doing research, and some of them actually did the investments. Now, we're at a point where the prices have come back down. Undoubtedly, a lot of the institutions have at least started doing their research, and some are already into the game. Now, I can't say for a fact that the price is going to hold because, look, we're in a bear market. I mean, it's that simple. Unfortunately, Bitcoin has been pulled down into it when the majority of the issues and the bubble, per se, were in altcoins. But the fact is, that's where we stand now. So for all I know, the price can go a bit lower. But the fact is, we have so far had, 4, 5, 6 times we've hit that $100 billion market cap level and bounced off. because obviously there is support there, including I've heard that, you know, futures markets require $100 billion market cap to be in existence. And it's not like I expect the CME to all of a sudden get rid of them, but if it stayed under for a certain period of time, probably a good amount of time, perhaps there'd be no futures. And by the way, I would think that would be a good thing for Bitcoin, not bad. But look, it's just something to watch, because there's no doubt that there are a lot of institutions that are in the game at around $100 billion. And, you know, we'll see what happens.
All right. Ed, what do you think about this $100 billion market cap? Is this, are there institutions out there supporting it? Could it drop more? Do you value your wealth in Bitcoin? One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, and you don't care at all? That's the way I am about it. But I think the number is interested, though. Ed, take it away.
The number is interesting. I don't value everything in Bitcoin because I don't have the privilege of paying for everything in Bitcoin and buying everything in Bitcoin right now. However, I consider it very seriously, and I agree very much with Andy. I do see a lot of support at this level. We've come down to this area before. We've seen money flow in to support the price. And I don't, in my opinion, it's not so much institutions supporting this price. It's the broad market supporting this price. It's all the Bitcoin holders, all the Bitcoin buyers around the world seeing something that's an undervalued asset when it gets below this level and coming in to buy. The whales make a big difference, but everybody else, all the small fish combined, add up to a whale as well. And everyone seems to see the value when we're dipping to the $6,000 per Bitcoin level. So yeah, I agree.
I do think there are some impulsive people out there, though, that do not defer gratification and can't see the long-term picture, and they don't consider it cheap. They're just like, oh, I'll get in when it's even cheaper. I'll just make some no-coiner excuses. Who knows?
Yep, you're absolutely right. And in line with that, one of the silliest things I've heard, I have heard lots of people online, but I've personally heard this from people in the space. I'm pro-Bitcoin, I'm pro-cryptos, but I'm selling until the market stops falling. Well, you know what? It's all the people selling until the market stops falling that cause the market to fall. And the market will stop falling when people stop selling. You know, you can't just follow the momentum all the time, or you're just going to give away your money to the smart money long term. The smart money is buying when it's down, not selling when it's down.
Yeah, when you look at the you know, if you look at technical, you know, people like to look at these very short-term indicators, which are basically momentum-based. But, you know, you look at the Mayer multiple. It's the spot price of Bitcoin divided by the 200-day moving average. It's a reasonably good longer-term technical number, which has held up to the test of time. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at a level cheaper than over 95% of the time in its history. So it's not that simple, but it's almost like saying that the outlook for Bitcoin is worse than it has been for 95% of time in the history is a simple way of looking at it. And I you know, this is, you buy when blood is in the streets, you know, and you sell when there's euphoria. This is blood in the streets, and this is value if you're looking at you know, traditional value measures for what it's worth.
Both great points. There's a lot of loud 80%ers out there talking about doing the opposite of what you logical dudes are talking about here. First of all, everyone pound that like button for when Edward went on that rant at first. That was really, I like that a lot. Okay, Gabriel, you can state your opinion on this, or you can just tell us how much is one Bitcoin worth in Bolivar? I mean, come on now, you know, fiat's so great. I mean, the Bolivar must be doing great against against Bitcoin. Take it away, Gabriel. Tell us what's up, man.
Yes. Thank you, my friends, for letting me be here with you guys. I have some things to share. Starting with on the thoughts that you were saying, Bitcoin is a great price right now to buy because you will still get a permissionless, censorship resistant with a finite amount of coins, right? This is why we treasure Bitcoin, because it gives us these things which allow you to be independent from banks and governments and sanctions and fiat mayhem, doom that we've seen. So I can start by saying you, in Venezuela right now, last time I was in your show, it was about 3 months ago. And since then, Since then, listen to this. We are right now at 19.5 billion bolivares for a Bitcoin. Okay, so this is going from the last 3 months where Bolivar was being traded at 250,000 bolivares per dollar, and now we're at 3 million bolivares per dollar. Okay, with a twist. I will give you a twist. If you are to buy with a bank transfer, you will get this 3 million rate, right? But if you want cash, actual bolivares cash like this, you will only get
hold them up. Hold them up. I want everyone to see them.
You will only get 6 of these for $1, which will be 600,000. Okay, because it's in cash. Because cash is so scarce in Venezuela because of hyperinflation and other issues that I explained in other shows, such as the Colombian mobsters and all that. The value of the bill is a lot bigger than the value of the currency in the digital way. Okay, that's a very interesting point. I think it's not happening in no other country, right? We have had this fork of the bolivar. So we have digital bolivar, which is worth something, and then we have the bills of bolivares, which are worth 5 to 6 times more than the digital. So it's a very interesting fork of fiat. Okay, I can start with you saying that, which I think is very interesting. If you hold the bolivares 3 months ago and you bought Bitcoin, now you can sell it and live off of it. Okay, because it's so much bolivares, and you have to understand that bolivares, even though people may think they are worthless, they are not. 19 billion bolivares, it's a lot of money here in Venezuela. It's like for you guys in the United States or in Europe saying that 1 Bitcoin costs 190,000 euros or $190,000, which is a lot of money for anyone in Europe or in the United States. So we see that Bitcoin has a super huge value because it's censorship resistant, and because it's permissionless, and because there's a finite number of them, you know, and we Venezuelans are actually experiencing that day by day in our face, right?
Now,
so
yeah, I got a question. You read that article that's been circulating about Venezuela and how that guy wants to give away Bitcoin.
Yes,
has anyone contacted you? I mean, you're a guy that's in the news. Have you ever been contacted by these people? Right?
Actually, what this guy is proposing is a very good idea, because you see, what's the problem? In Venezuela, we have capital control, so you are not allowed to buy dollars from the government, right? Only just a few amount of people can do that, special companies and such. And you can't buy legally currency on the street. There's no exchange houses on the street. They don't exist anymore since 15 years ago. So the people, the only way that they have to convert their bolivares is through Bitcoin, right? And what's the problem? That nobody is willing to sell their Bitcoins for bolivares. What I mean, nobody is just a few amount of people. So imagine this, all of the market of local Bitcoins worldwide, 16% of all those trades are done in Venezuela with bolivares. So 16% of global local Bitcoins market, it's being traded on Venezuela. And that is only around $500,000 worth of Bitcoins being traded every day. So if you see that a country, a whole country that needs to do commerce with the other countries, it's only getting $500,000 worth of Bitcoin offered, okay, what's going to happen to the currency? The value is going to drop because there's no way of getting out, or the way is just too small. So when it's too small, there's just so many bolivares trying to do business with other countries, and there's just a 500,000 gap to get in, right? So the bolivar keeps dropping like a rock. And it's very sad, because people actually in Venezuela, they want to work, they want to do the right thing, they want to live a good life. But sadly, the politics have gotten in the way of that.
So those guys that it's a good idea what they're trying to do to get that Bitcoin into Venezuela somehow.
Exactly.
Okay, so I hope they're watching. I hope they're watching. I hope they contact you.
Please,
I hope they contact.
Allow me to elaborate. If Mr. Jonathan Wheeler, which is the promoter of this very good idea, and his group of philanthropists, if they can have the power to gather enough Bitcoins to pour it, not give it for free, because if you give it for free, then you're gonna make Bitcoin worth more money. So instead of giving them for free, I will suggest to do a trade for Venezuelan goods. Okay, buy Venezuelan goods with Bitcoin. That is a real way of helping, because if you just give it away for free, you're just being as socialist as the most socialist government of the world, And that's one thing I will say. It's just my opinion, okay? It's just my opinion. It would be cool to give away free money to the people, yeah. But if you do that, and then the money that you're giving away is worth not so much, okay? So I think it's a very good initiative for these guys with the Azul app. They are talking about doing an ICO, and they're talking about by the end of the year having this application working so that the Venezuelan guys can get the application, and then these guys can gather a lot of Bitcoin and then do an airdrop. Okay, that's a pretty cool idea. I will support that, but I will add, we have to do a trade for that. It can't be just for free.
They could pay people in Venezuela to do internet work for them. I mean, you guys speak English, or I mean, there's a huge for the guys who speak Spanish. There's plenty of Bitcoin work in the Spanish speaking world.
And there's a lot of things that people may not know that are being produced and that are here in this country that are needed overseas. Different sort of things that can be traded. It doesn't have to be for free. I think it's not good to do it for free. I think it would be a bad idea to do it for free. I think you have to do a trade. If you do a trade, then you're helping Venezuelans and you're helping yourself.
I will say this, I just checked out the chat, and Vention Migtal said something. He might have been joking, but this is a legitimate trade. He said cam girls, maybe some of those hot women in your country, you pay them just to dance around in the bikinis. What the heck? Why not? It's better than...
why not?
And by the way, Gabriel's looking pretty darn good today, man. He's got a good video look. I mean, your sound is great as you ever have. Hey, group, my other two panelists have been. Do you have questions for Gabriel? I don't want to.
Well, I just wanted to bring up. It's kind of sad that every time people talk about the use case for Bitcoin related to hyperinflation, they just talk about Venezuela or what's your friend
Zimbabwe.
In Zimbabwe.
Although it's not hyperinflation there anymore, but yeah, they always talk about Zimbabwe. They always
But there's, again, the reason I got into gold years ago and into Bitcoin 3 years ago was fiat currency. All this other stuff was secondary. It's the digital gold and all these use cases really I hadn't been thinking about. But the fiat currency system, it's a Ponzi scheme that's getting worse and worse. And with each passing day, you're seeing more and more currencies hit all-time lows. I mean, I just listed a few. We're talking about just in the last month. India hit the Indian rupee hit a new all-time low. I think it was yesterday. And it's only been, a year and a half since they went to their cashless society that was supposed to save everyone. Well, guess what? All-time low for 1 billion people living in India. Argentina, right next door to Venezuela. I think if they're not, it's hard to tell if they're an all-time low because they've had so many currencies destroyed.
If I might add right there, the Venezuelan economy, people might think it's not important or it's small, but it's wrong. What is happening to Latin America? Watch what is happening to Latin America in the last 3 years that Venezuela has been going down. What's happening to Argentina? What's happening to all the South American currencies? Because 5 years ago, Venezuela was supporting Argentina and so many other countries by giving them money, to make up for their deficits. So when Venezuela went bankrupt 3 years ago, because oil prices dropped, and then Venezuela stopped helping other countries, such as Argentina, what's happening? In the last 6 months, the Argentinian has dropped 50% in value, their money. The real from Brazil has dropped at least 5%. The Colombian peso has dropped more than 10%, and so on. So this is a very fertile land for make this experiment for cryptocurrency, and all philanthropists and or companies that want to actually help Venezuela, they will also get the whole attention of the world. So this is a very fertile ground for all companies.
I agree with Gabriel
in,
100%.
To chip in, you know, and become famous themselves. Because, okay, look, I did something for Venezuela, and Venezuela is all the time in the news for whatever reason. You know, if you go to Spanish news, it's all about Venezuela. If you go to Colombian news, to everywhere in the world, I don't know why. There's this big obsession, you know. Venezuela is on the spotlight all the time. So anyone that helps Venezuela will be on the spotlight automatically and will gain a lot.
Can I say something, Gabriel?
Yes.
I love what I heard you say about wanting help less in the form of Bitcoin flooding the market, which could just potentially devalue the Bolivares even more, but rather wanting people to do trade with Venezuela, people to buy things with Bitcoin to bring economic activity into Venezuela, because that's the key here. Even the problem you described where Venezuela was supporting the other Latin American countries, that was financial distortion. That's what happens traditionally with fiat. People push them around to distort things that doesn't help the underlying economy or the fundamentals. If they airdropped a ton of Bitcoin just to drop the currency, it feels helpful. It feels like we're helping the people who need money. But like you said, there's no liquidity. People can't sell it. And if they do, they end up losing that value. But if you send those coins to people doing a service, people selling a product, you're helping the economy. And anyone who's selling a product is not going to hold all the Bitcoin. They're going to turn that Bitcoin into Bolivares to pay their workers or to buy local supplies. So they will boost the economy. This is how we help things. We stop trying to manipulate the currency and start building an economy that uses a real stable currency.
Well, let me just add here, though, I think we're getting a bit too ahead of ourselves. The problems in Venezuela and Brazil and Argentina have to do with government policy, socialism, capital controls, inflation, which happen to be in a region of major oil production, a major problem. We have a lot less oil and a lot higher prices. And this guy in Goldman Sachs is not going to be airdropping free Bitcoin into Venezuela. It's all publicity stunt. And if he did, it would probably go into the hands of a couple of rich bureaucrats. The people in Venezuela, like Gabriel, need to take care of themselves because the world is not going to take care of them right now. And again, I was trying to finish up all these other countries. Again, India, 1 billion people. The Chinese yuan, I know no one really wants to pay attention to it. It's a managed currency, but guess what? They just managed it to a 6-month low this week. Pakistan, all-time low in the currency. Brazil, South Africa with their new crazy, leadership where they're going to, take all the land from the whites. The currency's been collapsing. Turkey, even Mexico with all that's going on. Another oil-producing country that's having trade disputes or whatever with the United States. The fact is that there are a lot of countries around the world that are falling victim to the fiat currency regime, and a lot of countries where Bitcoin is going to be necessary and where gold just doesn't work anymore. It's a fact. I mean, in the West here, we have all-time low sales of gold and silver. In fact, if you look at the numbers of silver, there's literally almost nothing. There's almost no silver being sold at all in the West anymore. It's over. It's going to be, the future is going to be digital gold. And the people like Gabriel who are working as leaders in their nations to get themselves Bitcoin, and the people that listen to them are going to be the ultimate winners. Eventually, the nation will hopefully benefit itself. But right now, we are seeing a lot of pressure on the fiat currency system, and I expect it to get a lot worse, which ultimately is going to provide more support for Bitcoin.
Yes.
I want to say one thing. I got a question for Gabriel, but again, we love when you're on the show, and everyone wants to hear about Venezuela, and that is why most likely on the 4th of July, Independence Day in the United States, we're going to have an all Venezuela show on this channel. Gabriel will be here, Maximo will be here, Jamie will be here, who knows who else will be here. So we will close this topic off pretty soon, but don't worry, people. On the 4th of July, it will be symbolic. We will be talking about independence. We'll be talking about financial independence with people from a country that are having some financial independence issues right now. But Gabriel, what's up with the Petro? Tell us about that.
Okay, I can give you an update. First and most of all, there's a lack of info, okay? I can tell you this. I have been asking around, I've been visiting offices here in Caracas, and there's pretty much a lack of info, okay? So what do I think? I think Petro was in the start a good idea. Some of the basis of the idea I do not agree with, such as being backed by oil. You don't really need to say it's backed by oil, right? why do you need to back the cryptocurrency by oil? This is nonsense to me. What I would have done is just say, okay, I will accept Petro for the oil that I want to sell you. That's it. It's just that easy, right? You don't have to stick it like be one Petro, 1 barrel of oil forever or whatever. No, I don't agree with that. What happens? What will give value if this ever comes out? Which I think it will, but I do not know when. It's been very bad for the government and the president. I think they look back. They look bad because they promised Petro for 3 months ago, right? So at the moment, what I think and what I know so far is that nobody has Petro yet. Okay, so I would say in the start, it's a good idea to have a cryptocurrency instead of fiat system, or at least living together with a good mindset. It was a good idea, but it was poorly executed, I would say. Because why would you go out and advertise a coin? If you're an enterprise or whatever, you're doing your own coin, your own token. Why would you go and advertise and then don't have it ready? You know, that's a big problem.
It was very gimmicky. I mean, that's what we.
And also they claim it. They raised it so many billions and billions of dollars, like $3 billion. And like, where is the money, right?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. So yeah. I think basically it's a good idea. I would support the idea of trying to be, you know, what crypto gives to you. Crypto will give you this freedom, right? This economic freedom that will work in 3 ways. It will work for the individuals, for the institutions, and even for governments. Because also governments and institutions can be, you know, pushed around by other guys that hold the keys of the fiat system. Let's put it that way. So right. I think it's a good idea, but I think it's been poorly executed, and there's a lack of info. And I think I will say that in the future, Petro will roll out, definitely, because these guys are committed, but I do not know when. And I don't know if they will change the white paper or what technology will they use. I do not know. Right now.
So let us, yeah. I want Edward and Andy, do you have any more Venezuela, Petro, any thoughts on this topic or any questions for Gabriel?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Ed, you're good too? All right, dude. So then for now, Gabriel will have some more things to say about Venezuela at the conclusion of the show. But remember,
yes,
July the 4th of July on this very channel. Hopefully, if all goes well, we're going to have an all Venezuela hour show, really getting down and dirty with these dudes who are in Venezuela who really know it. And everyone loves when Gabriel is here. Pound that like button, everybody. Strong hand. Okay, let us move on then to, well, we'll go to Andy here with the Brhodium update. What's going on with there? You've had some Brhodium thoughts lately, and people who don't know what Brhodium is, an airdrop on top of if you held Bitcoin, and a lot of people familiar with Andy and me and a lot of other people signed up for this airdrop a while ago, and now we're getting closer to it being a reality. So Andy.
Yeah, look, I mean, no one's more of a quote Bitcoin maximalist than me, and I always have been. But the fact is that you know, old coins, while the vast majority of them are money grabs and don't have use cases, there are going to be some winners over time. There already have been some winners, and there will be more over time, which you will see once we get back into a Bitcoin bull market. But the one in particular that has interested me the most, which people who follow me are well aware of, is the free airdrop known as Brhodium, which was airdropped only to Bitcoin holders who were proactive. And you know what? Unlike Bitcoin forks and a lot of other ways that people have gotten crypto dividends, as you call them, this required work, because this team of anonymous developers created their own blockchain. It may be called Brhodium, but it really is its own chain, and that's why it's taken so long to get to the testnet stage, because it was created from scratch by people who were trying to create something with a use case that was their own. And over the process of this 6-month time, where only the people who went through the whole process of getting the airdrop, and in some cases they did it wrong and had to do it over again, but if you did it correctly, you have it. People have it in their wallets right now. It's not like the other forks, like say Be Private, where a lot of people don't have it. You have it right now. You are waiting for it to launch. Over the 6-month period, if you go on their Discord channel, you will get to know the developers. They're anonymous, but they are very, they're English speaking, and they are very cordial and helpful, and very diligent in the way that they've put this together to make sure that they don't have the problems that a lot of the other crypto or altcoins in general have had in not being prepared for all the issues you require regarding security, exchange listing, reputation, having a use case, doing things the right way. And right now we're at the point where they've just launched. This is a big deal. This is not a small deal. They launched the testnet last week, which means right now, if you go on the Discord channel, you'll see the links to the testnet. You'll see all the blocks being produced in testnet and all the wallets exchanging Bitcoin Rhodium, BTR, back and forth. It's very, very exciting. And right now they're at the point where they're still having some glitches in the testnet. So they correct them as they go. It's really not a big deal. But once they get to the point where all of the glitches are fixed as they go, they will launch. And I assure you that they have been talking to many exchanges. And when they do it, that too will be done the right way. I'm very excited because there's only 2.1 million that will ever be issued, except a couple of 100,000 of it was never even claimed. So my guess is that when it starts trading, it probably will have somewhere around 750,000 outstanding. And it'll take another 100 years for the final million to be mined, which it's going to be mined by a lot of different individuals. So I think that this particular altcoin has the opportunity to turn a lot of heads and make people realize that altcoins in general, if they are done the right way, have the ability to be big winners. And let's face it, you know, for all the people that want to attack Ethereum, which has all kinds of issues, it was a gigantic winner for the people who were in early, even at this price. And while I still have not paid for other altcoins, that may change down the road, but it certainly hasn't now, I find it very interesting that this Brhodium is coming out at a time where no one is paying attention to altcoins, and they're doing it the right way.
All right, so we are definitely in the altcoin section of the show. And of course, I always say, you never pay for something you get for free here. So I enjoy getting free crypto dividends. Who doesn't? You turn it into Bitcoin. So here we've got Ed on the show too, who is a Bgold dude. He has spoken about Bgold on the show before, and now he's going to speak about it and give us a Bgold update. That was one, if we had on our Trezor, if we were holding Bitcoin, we got the Bgold on our Trezor. It's very convenient. So, Ed, what is going on? There's going to be a fork soon. What's the story with the Bgold?
Right. We're doing a network upgrade very soon. It's happening at block height 536,200, which is only like 600 and change blocks away. So we have the exact same general formula as Bitcoin. So that means that's going to happen in about 4 days. So it's coming up tight. We need to make sure that all our partners are updated because this requires a hard fork. So it's going to need new code in pools, in exchanges wallets, in all of our core wallets. A lot of light wallets and mobile wallets, they have their own backend infrastructure, which will also be updated. Some of them rely on our Insight servers, and we'll update those where we already have. So we can take care of that. But we need to make sure that all these places have prepared themselves, and you know, a lot of them have done the work. And as they finally respond to our request, they tell us, oh yeah, we took care of that 5 days ago. But they're not necessarily saying it publicly. So I personally am a little concerned that everyone's going to be ready. There's only 2 business days left, you know, today and Monday, and a lot of these bigger places work on business schedules. But there's 4 days left for anyone who works the weekend, which most of us in the crypto world do.
All right. Now, again, remind everyone why this is being done too, because I mean, there have been,
sure.
Yeah.
It's a big double reason. Now, the primary is the whole reason the Bitcoin Gold was created was because a group of people who are Bitcoin fanatics were concerned about the centralization of the mining within Bitcoin and the centralization of power that led to. And they wanted to provide a Bitcoin alternative, which is ASIC resistant. So they created a fork of the Bitcoin code and a full copy of the Bitcoin blockchain to establish Bitcoin Gold, which is mined with Equihash on GPUs. And that took off and did well. You know, it suffered during the crypto bear market that we're all in, but the coin is still doing well. We're considered a successful project. Until recently, when the news came out that Bitmain put out the Z9 Equihash miner, which is obviously a big concern for us. And we very quickly came out and said, we're obviously going to address this. We're going to fork and change our code because we don't want to allow ASICs to take over the mining. We don't want to hurt all the miners who have been mining for us all this time. So we're doing a different version of Equihash. Not everyone's aware that Equihash has 2 parameters that dictate how it gets implemented. And depending on the parameters, the traditional Equihash parameters that Zcash started out with were 200,9. That means you only need about 140 megs of RAM on your device. And at this point, ASICs can squeeze 140 megs of RAM onto a chip and start doing the work. But the better parameter sets, like 192, or what we've chosen, 144.5, require a ton more memory, an order of magnitude more memory, and it's just impossible to do that on a Z9. In fact, some people that we've been working with on other coin teams have literally torn apart the chip and zoomed in with their microscopes to look at what's on there. It can't do Equihash if you use the parameter set 144.5. So that's what we're doing. We're rolling out this fork to allow the network to upgrade for that. But it's also a response to last month's double spending attacks. I'm sure you all saw in the news that in mid-May, there were 51% attacks. People were renting huge amounts of hash power or producing large amounts of hash power, potentially using ASICs, to do 51% attacks on the chain and use that not just to harm the miners whose revenues they were stealing, but also to do double spends against exchanges. And we're not the first. Other coins were attacked with double spends immediately before. Other coins were attacked immediately after, including Zencash, which happened in June instead of May. But this is something that's been going on. So our change is going to be to a new algo, but also there's going to be personalization put in there, which makes it harder to divert hash power by going through a central market that lets people just sort of buy mercenary miners and use them for whatever they like. It's going to be a little more difficult to do that. It's going to be a little easier for us to track. It's going to be a lot harder to amass enough power to do a 51% attack. A couple of small coins have already forked and started using this new algo. They're doing very well. Ours is coming up soon, and we're hoping ours goes as smoothly as it has for the other coins.
All right, guys, you heard it here. There's some altcoin. You don't hear about altcoins too often here, but I talk about them when we got them for free. And hey, it's newsworthy stuff. Value your wealth in Bitcoin, people. Remember, if you sell your altcoins, don't think about them in terms of fiat. Are you getting more Bitcoin for them in the long run? So Gabriel, I'm going to ask him an altcoin question too, because I was told by someone. They phrased it like Dash is almost attacking Venezuela in terms of the way they're marketing themselves there. Have you noticed the increase in Dash activity in Venezuela? And we'll talk about this on 4th of July also, as Jamie wants to talk about it, I think. Gabriel, you're muted. You're muted, brother. All right.
Of course. I'm sorry. I will comment on that. I think the guys from Dash in Venezuela, her Eugenia Alcalá, I think she has done a great job, okay? I can't complain. There's nothing bad I can say about Dash, really, about their doings in Venezuela, because what they do is they rent this place, right? And then they put all these merchants there, and then they will give to the people outside that are doing a line, they will give them $10 worth of Dash for free. So then they will spend this Dash with the guys that are in this today, this commerce, these little booths, right? And then at the end of the day, this commerce can get the Dash again. So what I mean is that the guys that sold the products for Dash, then they will get the Dash again, double. So the thing is that people for $10, $10 can be a lot of money here. So people go crazy when they know there's a Dash conference or whatever. They go like, oh my God, I'm going to collect my $10. I have to do this line. So you see a huge line of people trying to get into this venue. And then these people gather and have fun and they talk about crypto. So there's nothing bad I can say about Dash. I don't have it in my exchange just because they haven't asked for it. Okay, they haven't really contacted me. I met them in Mexico and they've wrote to me. They're interested. They want to be in Monkey Coin, but they haven't formally requested to be in, and there's some expenses to be done. do that, which they haven't complied with. So that's why we don't have Dash in Monkey Coin, but I would love to have it maybe someday, and I totally support the Dash community. That's what I have to say about that. So by ending this story of my explanations to you guys, I would like to just to let you know a couple of things, what happens with the fiat mayhem and capital controls and socialists. When you put all that together, go ahead.
1 second. Before you
Yes.
I want we keep those thoughts in your mind.
Yes.
Ed has to go before everybody. He's got
Okay.
to. I want you, Ed. Is there anything that has not been brought up that you wanted to bring up? With Bgold, with Bitcoin, and newsworthy subjects that we did not cover today.
Well, I'd like to hear Gabriel tell us that he'll be listing Bitcoin Gold on Monkey Coin sometime soon.
Okay.
I would be interested in hearing you comment, Gabriel, on the GPU mining world in Venezuela. Is there more access to GPU hardware, and are people able to do some mining there?
Sure, I can comment on that. I will tell you there's a lot of people mining with GPUs in Venezuela, especially Ethereum and whatever else they can do to mine with that, because it's relatively easy to import them, and relatively easy to build your own rig. It's not that complicated at all, to have your own mine. Maybe if you have like 1 or 2 rigs in your apartment, and you can live off of that. So there's a lot of people here mining. People love mining cryptocurrencies in Venezuela. So I think if you are interested into building a community that specializes into mining Bgold, I think it would be interesting if you pay a visit to Venezuela, meet some people, and start. Let's do something here.
We'd love to. We've got people on our team, just over in Colombia, so they could quite easily potentially come over. I'm not sure how easy travel is over there. But also, I just want to mention, when our fork comes and we switch to the new algo, to compensate for the fact that we might have a drop in miners, because there aren't a lot of AMD miner softwares available for the new algo yet. We're going to be dropping our difficulty to 1/100th of what it was. Now, the algo itself is about 15 times more difficult to mine, so we would have to drop to 1/15th just to compensate for that. The additional drop is all to compensate for the fact that we might have a very small number of miners in the first few blocks. But that also means that anyone who comes over early will kind of get a little bit of a mining bonanza.
Yeah, we
there'll
get
be
a lot of coins. Yes, I understand that, and it would be totally cool if that's done. Yeah.
These dudes are in motion on my show. Look at this. They're making connections. This happens a lot. Pound that like button. All right. So Ed might disappear. It's all right. Thank you, Ed.
I just want to thank you, Adam. Thank you, Gabriel. And thank you, Andy. I appreciate your time.
Awesome, Ed. All right. So now Andy Hoffman's going to take over for a little bit. We're going to get back to Gabriel. Keep that thought in mind.
Sure. No problem.
You got a lot to say. But Andy, take it away. Tell us what is going on here. Go on one of your rants. Have the field here. Take it away. Unmute yourself too. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so now we have no specific question. We are just talking about the state of the universe here.
Yeah, because people love to hear you talk, man. I mean, I'm just giving it to you. I mean, this show can go any direction, and I just feel like having it be Andy's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or just to go on. Like it's you know how you do those shows on the World Crypto Network. Check them out. Do a show right now. Yeah, right now.
All right. Well, look, I mean, nothing is simple in the world. Like I think about when I started Crypto Gold Central. It was September of last year. The price was, I think, $3,500 at the time, and the price steadily rose, steady, and there was all this demand for my services and the blog and the consultations, and then it went out of control and went to $20,000 in a heartbeat. And I have a brief surge in demand, and everyone wants to talk to me, and then when it plunges, everything collapses, right? I mean, it's good and it's bad, but for the most part, you can't control the way the world is, particularly this incredibly volatile, world-changing technology, which goes off in all different directions. On any given week or month, there's all set of new variables. There's the Mt. Gox trustee, he's going to destroy it. Oh, wait, he's not selling it all. This, that, the other thing. Today they say, well, the price is down because Congress was warned that Bitcoin is going to affect the election, whatever that means, or some other government has got AML, KYC, et cetera, as if like, you know, I mean, stocks have AML, KYC. I don't see anyone selling them. I mean, it's just normal regulatory behavior. There's nothing negative about it. But the fact is, everything about this nascent technology with a very thin float and all kinds of, you know, impacts potential on the status quo goes in all different directions. And we've seen now at least four major, I don't want to call them bubbles because we've always come back and exceeded the all-time highs. That by definition means it's not a bubble. But this, you know, it's done it the same thing this time. This time we were aided by all the Wall Street money that rushed in the fall, and particularly when the crypto hedge funds came in. It wasn't helped any by all the CNBC and mainstream people like Rand Nooner and Brian Kelly coming in and pumping up everything that they could. And so we had a bubble, and we're in the aftermath of the bubble right now. And so how this bubble is going to play out, don't know. The thing is, though, that unlike, you know, let's say the Mt. Gox cold bubble, whatever, there's no bad news. This is the bear market, at least for Bitcoin, with no bad news. Every single day, I see at least good news, and all the things that are called bad news are not. There's not a single thing that I've seen all year that really worries me at all, because we've passed this point of critical mass. Our competitors, with quotes around them, the Bcashes, altcoins in general, are no longer competitors. Even gold is no longer a competitor since no one's buying it anymore. So to me, it's just a matter of, you know, where do we stabilize? Are we going to do it just like all the other bubbles, you know, where we have the same exact chart pattern, or is something going to change it and make it reverse quickly? I don't know, but I, for one, am not worried at all.
Well, here we go. Vention MGTOW has a question for you. He sent $10 in the super chat. Thank you very much, Vention. And he says, Andy, what do you think the chances are of a major 2008 style financial implosion this winter? And if it happens, what effect do you think it will have on Bitcoin? Before Andy answers that question, I think him and I differ on this. I don't think there's a chance of it happening at all. Andy, what do you think?
Well, my views on this have changed after many, many years of watching, quote, the powers that be and their money printing powers. Of course, those money printing powers only work so long as people have confidence in that money, with quotes around it. And the fact is, as I just listed, more and more currencies are falling victim to the system. I mean, every day there's a new one, and people get upset about that. And that's why they, at one point, bought gold, and in the future will be buying Bitcoin. But the thing is, at this very moment in time, the quote powers that be have been very good at manipulating markets. That's all they do all day long, whether it's the stock market, the bond market, whether it's the currency markets, the precious metal markets. They've been able to keep stability in a world where wealth inequality has never been worse, where debt is just parabolically exploding from everywhere, from individuals to corporations, municipalities, and of course governments. I mean, the system is increasingly unstable, but at the same time, I don't know if we'll have the big 2008 style crisis. We certainly could, but I have no idea. And if we do have one, look, there's a thing called safe haven assets. And the worse the crisis is, the more people will move to those safe haven assets. And to me, Bitcoin has become the asset of choice for something like that. We haven't seen that situation yet, but that's why Bitcoin was born in 2008. The white paper occurred like literally weeks after Lehman Brothers, and I believe truly that if we do have even something even close to what we had in 2008, that Bitcoin will be the biggest winner.
Yeah, that's a good answer. If you guys think there's going to be something close to the 2008 thing, then get yourself some Bitcoin. that's your safe haven right there. And you see on the internet all these people saying, "Oh, that's a reason not to get into Bitcoin because everything's going to fall apart." No. Come on, be proactive. Even during the worst of financial situations, there are people that do just fine. You want to be one of those people. It's insurance in that way. All right, Gabriel, you were in the middle of a thought, and this will be like a preview of what everyone's going to experience on the 4th of July, hopefully on this very channel, when we have the Venezuela talk. So, Gabriel, take it away, what you were going to say before.
Well, first, I'm very pleased to have heard Andy's thoughts. I think they're right on spot. And yeah, this is only gonna grow, and it's perfect for saving yourself against the wrongdoings of the powers that be, like he called it. Right on. So I would just like to add just a couple fun stories just to finish up our interview today about gasoline and tourism in Venezuela. Okay, so that you have an idea of what happens with a rich country that is bad administrated. Okay, you see, when you are, let's say, in Miami, New York, or Mexico, DF, or wherever, and you want to fill your tank, right? You have a truck, you need 60 liters of gasoline, you pay $60, pretty much, okay? Let's say you pay $60 for your gasoline, which will last you maybe 1 week, okay? Cool, we're cool with that. What happens in Venezuela? You will need to get your 60 liters of gasoline, you will only need 60 bolivares, okay? 60, okay? So what happens when you tank in Mexico, DF, and you pay your 12,000 pesos, right? With that money, you convert it to bolivares at the black market rate digital, okay, which is 3 million. So you will get the huge amount of 180 million bolivares for $60, okay? So now you take your 180 million and you go buy gasoline once a week, okay? And you fill your tank. You know how many years you can buy gasoline with 180 million bolivares, which is $60?
I mean,
57,000 years. Come on.
Okay, yes. So I mean, this is what happens when governments mess around with everything.
And let me just add.
This is how rich is Venezuela, about how badly administrated it has been.
Let Andy, what are you going to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, Adam, I think in some ways you're very secular. I think you fall victim to it. You say, oh, we're not going to have a crisis. Well, first of all, we did have a crisis in 2008. It was a horrible crisis in which thousands of people lost their homes and jobs and savings and will never recover from it. And their children have more debt than they'll ever have. This is the first generation where children are not as well off as their parents. It's real, and it's here. The only difference is that here, because we have the dollar, we were able to destroy the dollar less by printing as much as we did than all these other nations. So to say that it's not going to happen, look what Gabriel is dealing with. And again, I'm listing some countries here. Brazil, South Africa, Mexico, Turkey, Pakistan, Argentina, India, China. In many ways, the people there could argue that these, if not are first world countries, at least second world countries, and they are seeing the pinch of economic decline and inflation too. It can happen anywhere. And the problem with fiat currency is that it is something that gets worse over time. We're not going to see less debt or less inflation. It will get worse. It's just a matter of which countries feel it the most. And it may very well happen in your country next.
But the term "feel it," that's the thing right there. The bread and circuses that the governments and whoever provide, it takes away the pain for most people. So I agree with you on the level that we're already in some sort of financial mayhem here in the United States.
Absolutely.
Everyone's pleased. Everyone deals with it because they're 80%ers and they take their medicine. And so I wouldn't worry about, I mean, they're gonna keep taking their medicine. And it's the same thing in South Africa. It's a ridiculous situation, but the producers keep producing. They take their medicine. They're happy to live behind the barbed wire and the big walls and everything, and life goes on.
But that's only the people in South Africa that live in Cape Town. That's a very small percentage of the population. And the same thing with the U.S. is only 4% of the global population. So the majority of the people in the world are still feeling the impact of the 2008 financial crisis. And the problem is that the inflation and the debt is much higher now than we saw in 2008. Heck, we're looking at Deutsche Bank, which was one of the big issues back then, hitting an all-time low now and seeing, I mean, again, we're supposed to be fixed, but we're clearly not. Look at what's going on with Italy, supposedly one of the richest, most high-class countries in the world. They're a disaster. They may lose their government to populism, which may do who knows what to the debt and the currency. There's all kinds of issues around the world, which may or may not. Look at Catalonia, Spain. All these things can happen, and they may.
There's insane government mismanagement, and that is what Gabriel was just talking about with, how they give away the gas, basically, but they can't manage anything else. It's a short-term solution by collectivists. the way to battle all this stuff, because even in a country as big as a basket case as Venezuela is personal responsibility. And for me, as long as there's personal responsibility within people and they understand how things really are and they're not impulsive and they're long-term thinkers, they can make it through any of this type of thing. And so that's why I kind of always downplay these end of the world, these bad financial situations, because I mean, he's doing pretty fine down there. I mean, it's not perfect and everything. He's trying to help everybody else, which is a great thing to do. And so I'm not doubting that there can be bad economic times in many, many first world countries, but people will just take their medicine. They're 80%ers. They will not complain. They will sit back and take it. And then there'll be people that actually think, and those thinkers are going to have to take personal responsibility. Are they going to have to move from the country? Are they going to have to get Bitcoin? Are they going to have to diversify some other way? So for me, I just don't like to stress these end of the world scenarios or these bad, horrible financial. I think in the modern world, in the most powerful country in the world, the United States, that we will never see anything like the Great Depression in terms of people really down and out and just things just horrible because of the bread and circuses and the almost post-scarcity society we live in.
But the bread and circuses only go so long as the value of the currency is worth something, and the value of currencies around the world is falling very rapidly. So while the U.S. is going to be able to hold its value more than most, the fact is we've had terrible inflation and debt here. And most of the other countries, not most, all the other countries in the world have seen much more significant declines in their standard of living. So the question was from Venture Big Cow, could this happen? The answer, of course, is yes. Of course it can. You can't just say, well, our government will be able to print money for bread and circuses forever, and therefore everyone will be fine. It's happened thousands of times throughout history, and it very well could happen. And frankly, the odds of it happening now are a lot higher than they were in 2008. But that doesn't mean that it will happen. It just means that if you are someone like Gabriel, who's in a place that's particularly vulnerable, and you are empowered, again, you could be smart. You may not have any money to do something about it. But if you're both empowered and have the means, you are likely to be able to get through it. But there are a lot of people who cannot get through it. And therefore, just keep in mind, it's not all good around the world. I mean, that's why Bitcoin was born. And it's certainly anything could happen at any time. We just have to wait and see.
All right, Gabriel, your thoughts on this here? Not just Andy and I go back and forth here. You're the one who brought this. This is good stuff. Now, this is very good.
Yeah, well, I think it's only going to grow, and it just needs some more time, because the ability to be censorship resistant, my friend. I go back to this subject because this is what matters. When we are free, and we are free to move our value of the work that we did, this society can be better. This is the bottom line for me. Okay, and of course, Bitcoin represents this in the best way possible. And I just want to let you go, guys, with a fun fact about what happens in Venezuela. Is if you ever try to come visit us and you try to pay anyone, doesn't matter anyone from the world, you try to pay with your debit card, right? And you try to pay your hotel. And let's say your hotel costs 80 million, which is pretty much what they cost, right? And you will want to pay with your foreign debit card. They will charge you at the official rate, okay? So you have to pay 80 million bolivars at the 80,000 bolivars per dollar rate. So you will have to pay $1,000 to stay one night into a hotel in Venezuela with your foreign debit card, right? But if you have a friend, or if you try to get it paid with digital bolivars, right? And you bought them with dollars, and you got the $3 million rate, then this 80 million bolivar hotel will be extremely cheap for you. So you see, this is the point that I want to give you with the gasoline and with the tourism, that the controls of the fiat system done by our government and other governments, and the pushes and pulls, have made this huge gap between what's the real value of the currency in Venezuela, because the difference of what people makes on the street and what things cost and the exchange rates messes everything around. So you have to be very clever in order to survive in Venezuela. And you know, Venezuelans have learned their lessons. So this is why I tell you guys, when you asked me before, is that we need to bring Bitcoins and crypto in Venezuela, but in exchange for something, not for free. So right now, it is one good thing that it's coming out of all of this is that the government is very open to crypto and has said publicly and signed the laws that crypto should be received in any store or any hotel or any restaurant. So this is opening the door for people to come to Venezuela and pay directly with crypto for their services, which in turn will be the idea of giving crypto to the people in exchange for something. So I think there's a bright future to come ahead. I think there's still some hardships to endure, but in the end, this will be a good thing that has happened to us. This mayhem and doomsday of fiat will turn out eventually into crypto being so strong in Venezuela and in the world.
Thank you for that hotel hack, by the way. That's some good stuff there. If you're traveling to Venezuela, and people do travel there are reasons. All right, before we get to Andy's conclusionary remarks, I have to say, remember, tune in to this show every day of the week. We do this show every Friday. The Beyond Bitcoin show will be Saturday. If you want to stalk me in Baltimore at 9 p.m. on Saturday night, I'm going to be at Brewer's Art with my friends just hanging out. I said I would slip that in there at some point. Again, I will be in Calgary, Alberta for the BitcoinRodeo.com on July 9th and 10th, then the 11th in Red Deer for the meetup, then the 12th in Edmonton of July, and I'll be there the rest of the month. And July the 18th in Philadelphia. That's linked. All of this is linked below. So check out the links, people. Always. And people are asking how can they check. They can contact Gabriel and Andy and Ed. Their links are below too. And Gabriel has mentioned Monkey Coin. That's his exchange. Contact him that way too. It's all listed below. So Andy, we're going to conclude with you here. I wanted to bring up, when we talk about these scenarios, these very bad scenarios, there are a lot of people that are like, that's why I'm stacking my silver, dude. That's why you got to have it physical metal there. And again, I think that's not the right take on this type of thing. I mean, I think that if we keep on living in this, the dollar obviously being inflated type of situation, it becomes more and more worthless. More and more people get on welfare and live on the bread and circuses, that they almost will be in better shape than the people that have the silver. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, the society will continue to function quite normally, I feel, and I don't know what the benefit of silver even will be. Like, are you going to go down to the 7-Eleven and pay with your silver? They'd rather have your WIC card, your welfare card. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that aspect of the people who are just the doom dudes that are stuck on the silver aspect of the end of the financial system, supposedly?
Well, I wrote last night a tweet. I said, at this price, you can buy 1,000 Bitcoins for about $6 million. And you think about all the billionaires and multimillionaires and institutions. I mean, we're talking about chump change to get a really significant position. And someone wrote to me, oh, yeah, well, you can get 10 metric tons of silver for that amount. So that's what, 20,000 pounds of silver. And I said, well, first of all, where are you going to store that? How much are you going to pay to store it? Think about what you would have to do to sell it, et cetera. And the fact is that, look, I sold my silver last summer very publicly, and that's when I left Miles Franklin, after SegWit got activated. I mean, it was pretty obvious and transparent what I was doing. I realized that at that point, we entered the digital age. Now, silver, which, look, I believe for years that precious metals were the only real alternative to what's going on in fiat currency, which is, fiat currency gets worse and worse. The problem is that in the world of Bitcoin in the future, there's really no need for this physical metal, which has all of which has so many issues, which, no one really paid attention to those issues when there was no Bitcoin. But now when you look at it, like what I just listed, it's a joke. And again, you look at the US Mint, okay? They literally are selling no silver. I mean, it's almost as if they shut off silver sales. It's that low because, and gold is down significantly too, because again, aside from the fact that they've been diluted by over 30 years in this paper market to the fact that there's 100 times more paper gold and silver than there is actual gold and silver, people are just realizing that it just doesn't work anymore. And the average person that owns gold and silver, believe me, I know, is probably, I'm guessing, is probably 60 years old. It's something from the past that's being replaced by something for the future. They're not all doomsayers per se. They may simply be, realistic about, Keynesian monetary policy and Austrian economics. But the fact is that the world is changing rapidly. And to me, look, if you own Bitcoin the right way with a trezor and you understand it, to me, that's physical. That's a physical commodity. I don't think it's like somewhere in the ether. I know exactly where it is and how to get it, and the rest of the world knows it too. I think the future is cryptocurrency, and also I think the younger people who are buying it are a lot more optimistic about the future because of it than the older people who have been trained by all of these doomsayers to hope for things to happen badly and to think that the only way they can actually capitalize on their precious metals is if something bad happens, which of course is the opposite of what would actually happen. Because if something was so bad, then the government would come in and confiscate it like they have done in the past.
I'll just say this. I think the people that are very much religious about gold, and I don't know if they've been through like a TSA checkpoint lately, if they travel as much as I do. I mean, I know if anything were to ever go wrong in my home country where I couldn't get back, I would have my Bitcoin. I'd be able to figure out a way to get my Bitcoin, all of my Bitcoin to me. I don't carry around all my Bitcoin with me, obviously, but there'd be a way to do it. You're not going to be able to get your gold with you. Your great store of value is going to be stuck in that country. You're not, that's the end. It is not mobile at all. And this world, and to be successful, I mean, you got to be a mobile type of person. You can't be tied down to any area. And I feel like the metals are just the old-fashioned way to tie you down. And hey, and first of all, I do not, again, I think as Americans, we'll be fine. I don't foresee a doomsday situation. So I don't hope that we even have to get to the point to even argue like, well, no, God, I'm glad I had Bitcoin instead of gold. I hope we don't get to that point. As you said, you never know. So anything else from you dudes? Because I want to tie it up now. It's an awesome show. I like when we freestyle like this at the end, and everybody in the chat did too. Thank you again, Bench and Big Tal, for sparking all this. You're awesome in the super chat. You guys, anything else? All right, coolness. All right, guys, I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, check out the notes section below. Pound that like button to tune in tomorrow on Saturday. And again, I'll be back every day. 4th of July, we're going to have that Venezuela show. If all goes well, I'll keep on promoting that. Thanks, everyone. See ya.